All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. I know we're a little bit early today, but might as well go ahead and go. I hope everyone's doing well. This is DFS Army's tournament strategy show where we talk through last night's slate. We'll look at today's slate, game plans, some potential scenarios. And then, of course, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time pre-lock show with myself and Brandon. That's for VIP members only. Link in the description for that. Promo code Bob for a 10% discount if you're into that. So, yeah, y'all, let's look at last night. Last night was a positive night for me, so I'll take it. This was the 100K winning lineup. It had Gary Trent Jr. in it, which is funny because the Domination Station last night, which is the optimizer for DFS Army, was giving you a crap ton of Gary Trent. I did limit him to around 20%, but was still over the field. He wasn't really pushing lines for you, but he helped make things work. Trey Murphy was a core play for me. I talked about it on this show too. He just makes sense when Zion's out. Torn Prince, I think I talked about it on this show. I don't remember, but I have been talking about Torn Prince is just a decent, viable value option. He was a much better play once we got the news that LeBron was out. I didn't get to Prince personally, but he made sense. The sim model, which is a tool that you can use at DFS Army, did like Torn Prince as well. So that's a point to the sim model there. Najee Marshall, he went off. Herb Jones disappointed me. He got into foul trouble pretty early, but also Marshall was just hot. He saw a boost in usage with Zion out, so he was a play that you were getting exposure to. I did not have enough of Marshall. He was really just the pivot from Herb to Marshall was enough to help, would have been enough to help me take down tournaments last night, but didn't happen, so it is what it is. But Najee Marshall made sense. Giannis crushed last night. The insanity of what happened after that game with him trying to get the game ball was kind of hilarious. But anyway, Giannis had a fantastic night last night. Again, we had exposure to Giannis. We talk about it all the time. Highest total games on the slate. I always just like having exposure to those studs. We saw it with Giannis last night. I was only at 10% exposure, but I believe he was a leverage play for my guy Brandon B-Dubs, who is on the pre-lock show and will be on this show a good bit next week. So Army members had exposure to Giannis, so that was good. Brandon Ingram got there, which is nice. CJ disappointed a good bit, but Ingram got there and he made sense. Everyone had him. Eason had one of his sneaky games. My guy Upper Slad, who's also a coach at DFS Army, always loves Eason, but I didn't get to him yesterday. And then Victor Wembanyama, we did put a 20% min on during the pre-lock show yesterday, so that went pretty well. So all in all, decent slate, but nothing too crazy. I'll take those every day of the week. Always better than a big loss. Carl said, my best single entry line ever last night, 328 without Giannis. Nice, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I was mostly profitable because of my 3 max lines, and I didn't have Giannis in any of them. So it's a decent night still. Zolo, hope you're doing well, man. Dixon, not a good night. I'm sorry, man. Sorry to hear that. Zola said, I like Prince because he gets minutes and shoots threes. Yeah, especially when LeBron's out, just he has more opportunities to shoot threes. There's a lot of games where he just does absolutely nothing, but he's usually viable for that reason. Dixon said, I did smash the Trey Murphy over 15 points line for a handful of units. That was my best play. Nice. That's a good one. People calling Giannis to get ejected for what he did to Hallie. I mean, I don't think he did anything that bad to Hallie besides yell. But when he was running into their locker room, that was a bit weird. I feel like, and Lopez, you're right. I feel like watching Giannis, because he's such a huge human being, in my mind, I'm like, okay, like he has his stuff together. But then you see stuff like last night, and I'm like, okay, he's just a big kid. Like, I relate to that. It's okay. Dixon said, I'm telling you, Josiah, after what the Pacers did post game is going to make Giannis break Wilt's record versus them next time they meet. Save this comment. Yeah, no, without a doubt. I would not. I think Giannis is going to crush in that Pacers game. I already looked at the date. It's January 1st, so should be a good start to 2024 for us because we'll be playing him. Thomas Dye, hope you're doing well, man. All right, y'all, let's jump into this slate. We don't have all day. It's an interesting slate, but per usual, there's a lot of injury news that we'll have to sort through and just kind of wait on. But ideally, this could be a really interesting slate. So I'm liking it so far. All right, let's jump into it. We have the Cavs against the Celtics. You guys know I don't like picking on the Celtics. Donovan Mitchell has been really good as of late. This is another spot where he's a very viable tournament play. Wouldn't shock me if my guy Brandon B-Dubs will have him as a leverage play on the pre-lock show today. But again, not a spot I think I'm going to focus on too much. Evan Mobley is out, and we can touch on who benefits with that, but he's been out for a little bit now, so I'm not overly concerned about this. Max Strus sees the highest increase in usage at 4.1%, and then it's Darius Garland at 2.9%. So both are very viable. We hit on the Jared Allen play earlier this week. For me, I'm comfortable having him in the mix, but I don't think it's really worth for me, as of right now, he's not my favorite big on the slate. So I'm not trying to prioritize him or anything like that in this spot. But if I get him naturally, if the optimizer gives me some exposure to him, totally fine with that. Let's see. But yeah, I don't love the Cavs here. So as of right now, I'm not getting exposure to them. Is Strus gonna be on the loose? You know, Strus can do that in any given game. And that's for my thought process here. I think the Cavs are just tournament plays. I think a lot of them are viable, but they're just not guys I'm trying to go out of my way to prioritize on the slate. I just hate picking on the Celtics and vice versa. The Celtics have been really good this season. The matchup just really doesn't matter for them at this point. But I still don't like picking on the Cavs, but what makes the Celtics interesting to me today is our guy Jaylen Brown is questionable with an ankle injury. If Jaylen Brown ends up missing this game, my interest for the Celtics goes from 0 to, I want to say 100, but probably more like 60, 70. The guys who see the highest increase in usage if Jaylen Brown is out are guys like Drew Holiday. He sees a nice 5.6% increase in usage. Tatum, 5.5% increase in usage. And then Derek White sees a nice increase in usage around 4.5%. So the Celtics are much more viable. I will have exposure to Tatum, White, Holiday if Brown ends up getting ruled out. And I wouldn't even hate taking a few extra shots on Porzingis here, just because he sees a increase in usage as well. Everyone is more involved in the offense when Jaylen Brown doesn't play. So keep a close eye on this. Thankfully, it's one of the earlier games on the slate, so we'll get this news in time. But could be exciting, could be fun, and not really that expensive either, especially Drew Holiday at 6,700. Some very, very viable plays, but just gotta wait for the injury news. If Brown plays, I'm not interested in that game very much. Next up, we have another game I'm not overly excited about. We have the Bulls going up against the Heat. Again, two teams I don't love picking on here. For the Bulls, Alex Caruso is questionable. When he misses games, that's a boost to guys like DeMar and Vucevic and Kobe White. They're all priced pretty appropriately in my mind, especially Vucevic and Kobe White. DeMar DeRozan's a little cheap, so he's someone I plan on. I'll probably have some exposure to. I say probably just because we don't know what else would change as we get close to the lock. But as of right now, I would have exposure to DeMar DeRozan. Of course, we'll see on the pre-lock show where we actually fall, but he's priced well. I like his price tag. The matchup isn't my favorite, but 8,200 without Levine, without Caruso, these are the kind of spots I play DeRozan in. So I'll have some exposure to him more likely than not. And then if Caruso's out, then I'll consider boosting my exposure to Vucevic and Kobe White. Outside of that, I feel like everyone's priced pretty appropriately. Patrick Williams is fine at 5,900, but doesn't stand out too much for me. Yeah, Dixon. Tatum is inconsistent as all hell. He's and that's why his price tag has fallen. We did see he was around 10K price tag range on DK just a week or so ago, and now he's 9,600 or so. So his price tag's fallen because of that inconsistency we've been seeing. And so that's going pretty well. So we'll see what happens there. But like I said, I'm only playing Tatum if Brown ends up getting ruled out. But anyway, the Bulls. We talked about it. I like these guys, but really only excited about the extra pieces and like Vucevic and White if Caruso doesn't play. And again, lock is at 7:30 today, so we'll get this news in time for these first two games, which is good because I'm very comfortable almost fading these early games if we don't get any news from them. Next up, we have the Miami Heat going up against the Bulls. And on the Heat side of things, Josh Richardson is listed as TBD. Highsmith is listed as TBD. So we know that does boost the performances of the guys who see minutes here, which is just the rest of the Heat. We know Duncan Robinson can be a viable shooter. We know Jaime can get it going as well. Robinson, I'm not as excited about, but of course, like if Highsmith ends up missing, he's a little bit more viable. Caleb Martin disappointed last night. In my MME lines, I was under the field on Caleb Martin. We talked about that on the pre-lock show, but I had him in one of my 3-max lines, and he really set me back a good bit. But anyway, that doesn't mean he will today. I still don't love this matchup against the Bulls, so I'm just not overly excited about any of them. Jimmy Butler's priced up again around 9,100, which is where he should be. So no one's really standing out for me too much on the Heat. Like I said, I'm just not really excited about this game. But if we get injury news around Josh Richardson, Highsmith, some of these guys just become a bit more viable. So we just have to keep an eye out for that. JJ, what's up, man? Yeah, I'm early. I just didn't feel like waiting until 12:30 today. I don't know. I'm ready for this week to end, I think, for some reason. It's just been a week. Doogie, what's up, man? Spot on with J Val and a lot of others. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate the support. Theo, what's up? Yeah, let's get a takedown today. Not gonna lie, depending on the injury news will depend on how I'm feeling, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping we have a lot to celebrate tomorrow on a Friday. Mr. Five, hope you're doing well. No worries. I was early, so you're not really late. Let's see here. And then for Dixon, Josiah, do you see Bobby Portis foaming at the mouth ready? Bobby Portis is always the first one to get upset. He's always ready for a fight. I like Bobby Portis, but I'm never surprised when he's ready to fight. Let's see here. All right, moving on. The rest of this slate gets a lot more interesting, and I like a lot more plays moving forward. So next up, we have the Timberwolves, who are one of the best teams in the league right now. We have Anthony Edwards listed as questionable. We have Jaden McDaniels listed as questionable, and Jordan McLaughlin listed as questionable as well. McDaniels matters. I won't say that's irrelevant, but what I really care about here is Anthony Edwards. The guys who see the highest increasing usage when Anthony Edwards is ruled out is first and foremost my guy Karl Anthony Towns, who is priced at $9K, which is a little bit of a sticker shock price tag for me and probably most people a little bit. But if Edwards is out, seeing a nice increasing usage, totally fine going here. And then Rudy Gobert, actually Kyle Anderson sees a 2.7% increasing usage with Edwards out, and then Rudy Gobert sees a 1.9% increasing usage with Edwards out. So selfishly, I really want Edwards to miss this game so I can have a ton of cat. And you already know I like playing bigs against the Mavs. Mavs are not a great defense, but they play at a slow pace. And so that usually makes it a little bit harder for expensive guards and forwards to get going. But again, if Edwards is out, Cat is a big. I like playing him here. Same story for Rudy Gobert. If Edwards plays, I'm not. As of right now, I don't see a world where I will play Cat with Edwards in, but I would be willing to still take some shots on Rudy Gobert. I like this spot for him. Let's see. And his price tag is appropriate, so that's cool. Anyone else? No. I mean, Kyle Anderson, we mentioned I'll have some exposure to if Anthony Edwards ends up getting ruled out. If he's chalky, I'll look into potentially fading him, but ideally he wouldn't be super chalky. Next up, we have the Mavs. People are talking about Luka. Dixon saying, feeling like a Luka night. Theo, is Luka a lock tonight? Doogie said, Lively looks good for me. What's your take? Guys, am I missing something here? I don't know. Personally, I don't like this spot a ton for the Mavs. The Timberwolves have been the best defense in the league this year, and I have done pretty well not playing guys against them. Of course, Luca is matchup proof. He can get there. It wouldn't shock me at all. If Let's see, what's the spread here? Spread's really close. And game total is also pretty high. So it's not a crazy move at all to play Luka Doncic here. I won't say good matchup, but good game environment with the high total, close spread. We know Doncic's going to be very involved with keeping this game close. So totally fine with Luka here. But honestly, there's not a ton of pay up options I love on this slate, but I have other pivots I prefer a bit more than Luca today. Exum is fine in that 6,600 price range, good for balance builds. Price tag is appropriate with Luca playing. Again, like Exum's fine, he's just not one of my top plays today. Lively at 6,300. Again, I'm just not overly excited about playing these Mavs today in a really tough matchup. We've been playing them for a while, but don't love it. For the Timberwolves or for the Mavs, Derrick Jones Jr. is listed as questionable. So if Derrick Jones misses this game, then I am a little bit more excited about taking some shots on some of these guys like Exum, Lively, Hardaway. Again, not much changes from a usage standpoint with Derrick Jones out, but it just solidifies their minutes a bit more, and they do see a slight increase in usage. But we all know when it comes to usage, Doncic is the one who dominates everything there. So yeah, guys, I don't love the Mavs tonight. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let's see. But again, I'm not going out of my way to fade Luca. When we get on the pre-lock show later and we're actually running lines, if he's showing up a bit naturally in the optimizer, I'm not going to X him out or limit him. I'm just going to actually force exposure to other studs on the slate. All right, next up we have the Nets against the Nuggets. The Nets are kind of boring, guys, not going to lie. Everyone's relatively healthy these days for him. Dennis Smith Jr. is listed as TBD, so we will see. But that they're all priced pretty appropriately. I don't like to pick on the Nuggets very often. Is there one guy? I mean, yeah, no, there's really just not anyone I'm looking at here. So again, if they show up naturally, I'll have to look a little bit closer at it, but they're not on my radar right now. For the Nuggets, easy answer here is I'm going to play Jokic today. He's only 12K, which is really not bad for him. And this is kind of where I'm going when I'm paying up on this slate. Again, I think Doncic is totally fine, but I like the lower ownership of Jokic with just as much upside and not facing the team that has the best defense in the league. Let's see here. Anyone else standing out for me here? First things, I'll pull up the sim so y'all can see what I'm looking at. I don't do this very often, but this is the tool that I use the most for DFS Army. I look at MPJ, 0.7% chance of hitting 8x. That's pretty good when you just compare that 0.7 number to other people in his pay range. But of course, Rudy Gobert stands out a lot more. So I don't hate the shot on MPJ. I think he's fine. I like the upside here. Yeah, so I don't think we're missing anything too crazy there. Other guys, sim model likes. We'll get to those games. Yeah, all the people we really talked about. One thing I didn't mention is Anthony Edwards. If he plays, he's viable. So that's one of the kind of things I like to do is when there's a stud who's questionable, who has a high upside in a matchup I don't hate. Typically, they're under-owned. And so if Edwards plays, I will force some exposure to him. So yeah, I'm really only going to force exposure to Jokic here. And then I have some interest in MPJ, Jamal Murray. Let's see. 0.5, not super excited about that, but again, viable, some upside there. Aaron Gordon. Some model always likes Aaron Gordon. So again, I think The Nuggets, the only guy I'm going to force into my 20 max lines today is going to be Jokic. And then when we get to the pre-lock show, I'll talk to Brandon about this a good bit too, considering taking a shot on one of MPJ, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon. Again, the only way I foresee myself really getting to these guys is if we get zero injury news. If we get injury news, I don't think I'm going to need to go here tonight. Yeah, we'll skip something. Doogie said MPJ will be dominant tonight. Yeah, I mean, he definitely has some upside. Rebounds and assists. All right. Dixon said angry Jokic. He's pissed. They ejected him last game. Joker, Luker, parlay. Yeah, I mean, we hit on this last time too. Jokic got ejected. He was low owned. He went out and crushed the next night. I don't know if he'll be that upset tonight, but I still like this spot for him at low ownership, so I'll be going right back. Mr. Five said, what's the number on the sim in the 7x column that makes it worth it? I don't look at the 7x column at all, or the 6x column at all. I only look at the 8x column. I know people who do that are pretty sharp. I just don't. And there's not ever a number I'm looking for either in the sim model. I just compare their chance of hitting that 8x ceiling in comparison to other people in their price range. But yeah, no worries. Even 8. Yeah, I just don't look at it for a specific number. It's just always comparing to other people in the price range to figure out who's the low owned player who has upside. That's going to be that's low owned, if that makes sense. Murray equals MPJ. Jokic equals Gordon. Murray equals MPJ. I don't know what you mean by that, Mr. Five. But let's see. I like Jokic here. That simple for me. And then if we get zero injury news, I'll take some shots, but I think we'll get at least a little bit, because we have even more guys who are listed as questionable. All right, moving on. We have the Thunder against the Kings. For the Thunder, they're looking pretty healthy, but the thing to emphasize here is that this is the highest total game on the slate and the closest spread. We know what that means for me. It means I'm going to have exposure to the studs tonight. For the Thunder side of the game, at least, that's not an unpopular strategy. They're looking like they're going to have some decent ownership. I'll at least match that, if not go over the field on it, depending on how lines work tonight. So SGA is in a really good spot. I'm looking to prioritize him tonight. And then Chet, I'm not as excited about as much as I like SGA, but I do plan on at least being around field weight exposure on him, if not exceeding that, if there's not any other bigs that show up a bit more for me, who I end up liking. So that's what I'm doing there. Value pieces, again, I'm really betting on getting some good injury news here where we don't have to play these other guys for the Thunder. But let me see if there's anyone else that could be interesting here. Yeah, no, not really. I don't love the extra pieces outside of SGA and Chet. For the Kings, their cheaper value options are a bit more exciting. But what you'll see is the studs on the Kings aren't getting as much ownership to the studs on the Thunder. And it's a little weird, but I think Fox has disappointed people a good bit. I think there's a pretty good chance Fox will be a leverage play for me tonight. And then Sabonis is someone that I'll want exposure to as well. So I like the Kings a good bit. And then when we go a little bit cheaper, I think Malik Monk is viable. He's very streaky. His price tag's getting a little high at 6,200 for his production. He's not someone who usually sees 30 minutes or more. So that makes me a little bit less excited about him. But if he shows up naturally in the domination station, wouldn't take him out. Keegan Murray is looking really solid here. I always get nervous when we have like a chalky Keegan Murray slate because I feel like he always burns me here, but he is priced well at 5,900. He's seeing consistent minutes, and again, this is the highest total game on the slate. So I'm going to try to avoid making him a core play. Again, ideally, we'll get some news that will help make that easier, but right now he helps make a lot of lineups work. Outside of that, the other pieces with Herder, Barnes, Sasha, Lyles, they're fine, but not guys I'm going on my way to play. I think Herder's a bit too expensive for how much he's playing right now. But again, high total games is really hard for me to tell you not to play guys in this spot. If one thing goes wrong, like Monk or Fox or someone gets into foul trouble, it wouldn't shock me if Herter sees an increase in minutes, and we know his production can be there. So again, not someone I'm prioritizing, but it can make sense. Barnes sees a lot of minutes, but he does a lot of nothing while he's out there. If I get a little bit, again, not going to X him out, but I'm not excited about him as a play. Similar story of Sasha and Lyles. Oh, Mr. Five, you know I don't pay attention to that, but I think it's fine if you do. 'Cause I know you've had some success with it. Henny said, nice. Daniel said, R. Kelly. I mean, J. Oh no, see, I didn't even mention Giddy. I was trying to avoid talking about Giddy. But if he shows up a little bit, it's fine. But I'm not prioritizing him. Thomas said Towns. Yeah, I like Towns. I am only playing Cat if Edwards is out, though. So that's kind of like my caveat there. Dixon said the last couple of games, Giddy low-key has been flirting with a triple-double. Stop, man. You gotta stop. Giddy has been in decent form here lately, though. I might need to take a little bit of a closer look. Might get there on the pre-luck show. Seriously, I think I gotta put him in at least one lineup. Yeah, it's like I said, with this game, when it comes to the highest total game on any given slate, I'm always more so willing to play the streaky, more risky guys who might not be the most consistent type of players. So I'm okay with you taking shots with guys from the Thunder or the Kings tonight. I will not try to talk you off of it, and I'll look a little bit closer at Giddy to see if I'm missing anything. All right, moving on. Only 2 more games on this slate. Next up, we have the Utah Jazz. They're coming off of a back-to-back. So there's that to take into consideration. There's also the fact that they're missing a lot of guys. I think the best play on the slate is also the chalkiest guy on the slate, and that's our guy, Colin Sexton. I thought about making him the thumbnail today, but I realized no one knows what Colin Sexton looks like. So I'll keep a star on the thumbnail. But I do think Colin Sexton is the best play on the slate. And the reasoning for that, A, he did well last night, but B, the Jazz are missing a lot of guys, and there's a lot of minutes and usage to go around. Lauri Markkanen is unlikely to play. John Collins is TBD, but more important for Sexton, Keontae George and Jordan Clarkson are both out. Everyone and their mom's going to tell you to play Sexton, so I won't go too heavy there. But again, Sexton will be in the vast majority of my lineups tonight. He's just too cheap for how much he'll play today and for the production he has, and the matchup is nice. So I feel a little bit better about the situation than I would if they were going up against some good defensive team. Let's see. Outside of Sexton, things get a little bit more finicky. I think you can consider taking shots on guys like Chris Dunn or Kelly O or THT or Fontecchio. Fontecchio did well last night. Fontecchio, I am fine with, but I like him better if John Collins sits. So the only guys I'm excited to play right now is Colin Sexton. I'm assuming I'll have some Kelly Olynyk exposure because he's really chalky and only 5,300. Fontecchio, I'm hoping shows up a bit naturally, but I'm willing to force him in if I don't get that exposure because he's been really good lately. And then I think Chris Dunn could be a little sneaky. Well, never mind. He's chalky as hell. I think Chris Dunn can be viable here just because they're missing a lot of guards on this team. I'm not loving Kessler here, but I'll look a little bit closer at him just in case there's some sneaky upside we're missing. And if John Collins plays, I'm not overly excited about that either. So yeah, Jazz are an interesting team tonight. A lot of viable pieces, but the only guy I actually like here is Sexton. Outside of that, these guys are dart throws. The Jazz are missing a lot of guys, but they use a lot of bodies in their rotation. Yeah. Lauri Markkanen's not planning on playing. Dixon said Dunn. Dunn's interesting. He's viable. But it's really a dart throw. You just have to know what kind of risk we're taking with these Jazz players. They're not consistent and rotations get weird because they don't know what they're doing. So you got to be careful there. For the Trailblazers, it's another injury-heavy team. We have Malcolm Brogdon listed as questionable. We have DeAndre Ayton listed as questionable. Jeremy Grant is out. So the injury tags will matter. The sad fact of the matter is that we might not get this news in time. So might have to make some pivots based off of some of this injury news. But If Brogdon's out, Simons is a core play for me. It's that simple. I really like Simons in general. I even like getting exposure to him if no one is out for this team, just because I really like his upside and how aggressive he is and involved for this offense. But he's a much better play if Brogdon's out. If Aiton's ruled out, we can take our shots on guys like Reith and Kamara again, but I never feel that great about those kind of plays. I'm really just looking to prioritize Simons here. Also, other guys who see a boost. If Brogdon's out, Scoot Henderson could be a little bit more viable. He's seeing minutes, but he's been a low production player thus far. So not someone I'll be excited about, but would be interesting. Depending on how the rest of the slate breaks down with news, and if Scoot stays at low ownership and Brogdon's out, I would consider a leverage play here, like just 10, 15%, something like that. Don't think that would be crazy. And then Sharp would be fine as well, but I'll be honest, I prefer Simons significantly more. Yeah, like I really like Simons tonight. I as of right now, I plan on being at least around field weight to him. But if Brogdon's out, he's a core play. All right. Next up, we have the Warriors against the Clippers. Last game on the slate. The Warriors have been so bad. I saw a tape of them arguing on the floor today. Curry just looking down. Paul trying to motivate him. These guys are just hot garbage right now. Draymond's out, though. So that should open things up in theory for the rest of this team. But we've seen how this plays out. We have seen Wiggins really not take advantage of the increasing usage he should have. He's seeing less minutes these days. Brandon Podziemski is starting to see more run. He started the second half over Clay. Same thing with Kuminga over Wiggins. I don't think that will happen again. I think there's a argument to be made for potentially taking a shot on Klay Thompson in 6,400 in the second highest total game on the slate. I don't think it's crazy. I want to look a little bit closer at it. Klay is in a really big slump, and he's been really bad this season. Dude, I would pay money to see Draymond Green in anger management or any type of therapy. Therapy's great. I think it's good for people, but I just feel like Draymond wouldn't take it seriously at all. It'd be awesome if he did, because that guy has some issues, but I just feel like he would not give them the time of day. All right. And so, yeah, long story short, I will have at least field weight exposure to Curry. Again, another guy who hasn't had much of a ceiling this season, but high total game, relatively low owned. Luka's obviously a better play than Curry, but he's significantly lower owned. So that's why I'm taking shots on the other guys who are pay up options like Curry, Jokic, SGA, Fox, Sabonis, instead of playing the chalky Doncic. Might burn me, but that's just the way I play. Next up, we have Chris Paul, 6,800. Sees an increasing usage without Draymond on the floor, but I can't get there. I'm really just looking at Curry as the guy I'm going to prioritize. I'm interested in taking a shot on Thompson. And then Podziemski is interesting enough where if he shows up in my lines, I won't X him out. I think they just need to get him more involved, to be honest. I just don't know if Kerr's willing to do it and hurt Thompson's feelings. Yeah, honestly, I didn't even realize he was. OS said, do you think PG sits? That's the question of the day, my friend. Mr. 5 said, Moody time. Decent value play there. Yeah, Duncan call was decent. Kuminga. I played some Duncan yesterday because of that call, but I just don't remember how he did. So I'm not sure where he landed. Yesterday, or looking at today for the Clippers, Paul George left Tuesday's game early with an injury. Their coach said he could have finished the game, but he still sat all of the second half, and he's still listed as questionable. So, you all know I can't predict the future. I don't know what these guys are going to do. This slate becomes so much better if Paul George sits, but I want him to sit because it would make Kawhi Leonard basically a core play. It would make James Harden a much stronger play where I'd be significantly over the field. And guys like Norman Powell would also see a nice boost as well. Minutes secured, usage secured as well. So really interesting spot for these guys. But once again, it really depends on injury news. So we'll just have to keep a close eye out for that. But just know my excitement for this slate goes up tenfold if PG sits. So we'll have to wait and see. Zubac, I have a little bit of interest in going up against the Warriors. I think we can play bigs against this team. He's had some upside that he's shown this season. Again, just because we don't know exactly how things will play out yet, I'm not going to put my stamp of approval on Zubac as a leverage play today, but he's on my radar as a potential leverage play. And then Norman Powell, even Terrence Mann are two guys that I would want some exposure to if PG ends up getting ruled out. If PG plays, I'm still going to play Kawhi and Harden, but I won't be as excited about. Dixon said Maxi's now on the banned list. I do think his price tag needs to go down. He just hasn't been it. Yeah, and Dame was off last night too. Those are two guards who hurt a good bit. Yeah, Patrick Williams isn't a bad play. He's a much better play if Caruso's out. But I'm never a Patrick Williams guy. That's one of my biases. I rarely ever force exposure to him, but I'll be okay with that. Oh no, Dixon. Don't try to get me on the Westbrook train. I don't know if I can do that. If PG's out, I think it can be more realistic. It's just hard to know. The tough thing is we just haven't seen Paul George sit this season. So we have absolutely no clue what will actually happen here. So it's a lot of just educated guessing. For me, Norman Powell would be a guy I want more exposure to alongside the studs, but it wouldn't shock me if they start Westbrook with PG out. The starting lineup would be interesting. White as a leverage play over Simon's chalk. He's playing 37, 42 minutes and crushing it without Levine. Yeah, I don't think Simons is going to be chalky. If we're talking, well, it depends on who we're talking about. Let me see. Simmons. Yeah, I don't think Simons will be chalky. To be honest, if Brogdon's out, then yeah, it wouldn't shock me if he's a bit more chalky. But I love the Simons play so much. I'm not trying to pivot. But your guy Kobe White, you're right, has been really good. He's another guy though I'm not really trying to get to unless Alex Caruso's ruled out. But I like the way you're thinking. Kobe White has been really good this season. Yeah, no worries. I love Simons, man. I love him so much. And this could be a bias thing because I've had a lot of success with him before in the past. But if Brogdon's out, I'm going there. But Simon's not someone we have to pivot on right now. He's just not chalky. Thoughts on Garland, SG? I'm not a big fan of the Cavs today in general, going up against the Celtics. So don't love it. He's not really chalky though. So like it doesn't really feel like a fade for me, but ideally I'll be elsewhere. Hauser been solid value. Yeah, he's been in the mix for a while. The DS is usually on him to some extent. But hopefully I don't have to play him. Never a guy I feel good about playing. All right. So yeah, that's the slate in a whole. A lot of questionables per usual, but we just have to wait and see and adapt. That's what the pre-lock show is for. That's what Upper Slat is for in the Discord, providing a lot of support there. If you're interested in seeing those shows, link in the Discord, promo code BOB. If you're not, I wish you all nothing but luck. Hopefully this will be somewhat helpful for you. And look forward to seeing everyone later. We have one more question. Anthony said, I love Simons too. I just have a feeling he's going to steam up closer to lock and no one is really playing White. He just keeps putting up 40. Yeah, no. White is a very viable play today, for sure. Yeah. Like, I think by the time we get to lock, it wouldn't shock me if I have some exposure to White and I'll be totally comfortable with it. For me, I usually start off by running the domination station, seeing what lines are looking like. Then I force exposure to the low-owned studs I like. Then I force some exposure to some sneaky high upside plays I like. And then I just see what I'm getting. And if Kobe White is showing up for me in those runs, love it. That's awesome. That's good. If he's not, then I won't get there. So I think White is viable. It's just going to depend on how things lay out for me. He's just not someone I'm going to prioritize today, which could be the wrong call. But I don't think White's crazy by any means. Dixon said, appreciate you too, man. You make it so much easier. Garland is not crossing up Drew like Ball did. Yeah, I just don't like the Cavs tonight. Brandon might talk me out of it, though. We'll see. Yeah, if you all could smash the like button, hit subscribe. Always appreciate the support. Whew, SG, you are digging, man. Carter, where is he these days? Bulls playing around 12 minutes, 3,900. He's not someone I would go out of my way to play. But if he's like your last piece, oh man, I ideally we can do better. But we'll have to see how the slate breaks out. No worries, man. Appreciate you sticking around with me. Appreciate you too, Anthony. All right, guys, I'll see you all tomorrow because today's Thursday, or later today on the pre-lock show. Peace out, guys. Bye.